Hello and welcome viewers. You're watching Business World. I'm Bhupendra Paintola. It is estimated that the economic cost of homophobia in India is maybe as high as $30 billion. India loses anywhere between 0.1% to 1.7% to GDP because of homophobia. And for anybody to perform at their optimum, a good mental health is must. And lately, we have seen reports around the mental health problems from the LGBTQ community. So, discuss this thing forward and to have a good deliberation over this, we have Naseem Kachwala, senior psychologist, Mpower. First of all, Naseem, welcome to Business World.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I'd like to begin our conversation with, although the recent time we have seen reforms when it comes to decriminalization of homosexuality, but we cannot also do away with the fact that the personal struggle is still very real when it comes to the community. Uh, Tell us what are the problems that these people face that leads to the health mental health problems, basically.
Right. So, Bhupendra, as you rightly mentioned, that though we have legal, kind of laws coming up for supporting homosexuality and the transgender population, but I think yet I think there is a lot more that we need to do within ourselves, within our community, to accept these people. I think the major challenges that they face is maybe starting from home. When a boy maybe talks about wanting to wear bangles in front of his mother, the mother is still not very comfortable to accept it. And maybe what they start doing is trying to tell the child, no, this is not right, aap aise kaise bol sakte ho, this is not something that you should do as a boy. So if a boy wants to maybe probably cry, and he's been told all his life कि आप रो नहीं सकते, लड़के ऐसे रोते हैं. So I think this stereotyping that we have in our system, where
Mhm,
boys are supposed to be behaving in a certain way and girls are supposed to be behaving in a certain way,
mhm,
is completely making it more difficult, because I think for people to open up itself takes years.
mhm,
And अगर open up होने के लिए इतना time लग रहा है, then maybe to seek help and to know actually what is to be done is another level of process. And
mhm,
maybe half your life is already gone
mhm,
to sort of actually come and avail for help. And maybe that causes these people to feel very neglected. See, also culturally we have these norms that we have set, that
mhm,
religiously this is not okay. आप ये नहीं कर सकते. How can you have a partner of the same sex? How can you like somebody who is a female? So it's said that it's between a man and a woman that a marriage needs to happen. Fair enough. But I think accepting that we have people who think like that,
mhm,
accepting that we have people who want to maybe exercise their own choices,
mhm.
I think is still not very completely, we are not very open to it as of now.
Okay, okay. So, if we consider the kind of behavior as a friend and as a family one should acquire towards these things, like in order to listen to the people and know their plight, basically, how should one respond to it? Because many times what happens, and this is one of my anecdotes. I was in NISD, National School of Social Defense, so that they were doing a program on LGBTQ awareness, and one of my friend who was not very concise with the words, he basically asked something कि आप लोग ऐसा करते हो, आप लोग, he was addressing them like that, and the pronouns that were not, the pronouns were used in different manner. So it wasn't communicated, although his intent was good. So that's why I'm putting forward this question, that how should one actually listen to the people and what needs to be done over there.
So when you say the word listen, I think adding active listening is very important. राइट. सो आई थिंक नाउअडेज पीपल आर वेरी क्लियर. जैसे आप प्रोनाउंस की बात कर रहे हो, हम जो कॉर्पोरेट के ईमेल्स भी लिखते हैं एक दूसरे को, आई थिंक देयर इज अ स्मॉल इन ब्रैकेट दैट ईच एंड एवरीवन puts nowadays, that you like to be called with a certain pronoun, because there are some people who maybe do not want to identify either with a male or a female, or they
Hmm.
want to be free to be exercising multiple gender roles. right? So they mention they. So I think being very clear with them, and it is okay. It is okay to ask them, because I have interacted with a few transgender population. I have worked with Humsafar for a while, which works in this cause largely. And they say the simple thing that it's just about maybe having a clear communication. So agar aap unko pooch loge, if you ask them, and maybe then address it accordingly, will be best. Second is also understanding in terms of how they would like to maybe view the whole thing. So sometimes maybe we think that they are not open, but trust me, they are very open about once maybe they have sort of declared, or they have opened up in public that they maybe belong to, maybe they want to have a gay partner or a lesbian partner, or maybe they are clear that they are a man and they want to transform themselves into a woman. I think they are very clear. So maybe from our side, instead of assuming, I think we need to be very vocal and maybe discuss it with them. And also, it's very important to know the background of the person, right? Uh, that's why active listening, being polite, being polite is the first thing that we should maybe inculcate.
Hmm.
Because I was just interacting with maybe when I was not even a psychologist, and I was passing, I was traveling in the local trains, and I happened to ask, a eunuch when he came and asked for money. I said, maybe I'll give you the money, but why don't you think of doing something for yourself?
Hmm.
And he just looked at me and he had tears in his eyes, and he told me, "Okay, I would love to do it, but would you be okay if I work in your house?
Hmm.
If you give me a job, would you be okay giving me a job?" And that really struck me hard, that maybe it is our perspective that we have not accepted them, or we think it's wrong for them to be who they are. And maybe that is why we are still not inclusive of them completely in our homes working as house help, or we
Hmm.
maybe in our office are not okay hiring transgender population, because
Hmm.
we still are maybe going through that kind of transformation, that as to, is it okay if we have these people working around us?
Hmm.
But lately, I was invited for a panel discussion at Mitabai, and we had some of the, we had some panelists who were from this community. And let me tell you, there was a doctor. He was a transgender, and he was PhD qualified. And when he spoke, everybody just couldn't say anything. He was so good. Then there was this
Hmm.
one person who was actually representing this community in the parliament.
Hmm.
So now it is happening, but I think it's still very slow.
Yeah. So I think you rightly put forward the financial problems and the issues around them are beyond any gender. I guess it is all inclusive, and
Yeah.
somehow everybody needs a profession in order to sustain themselves. Yeah, I'd like to know from your experiences, at what age people have come to you in order to discuss things, and just define what is gender dysphoria, because it is a very highly talked about word, but how many people understand, still debatable. You can just define gender dysphoria and what age people come to you usually.
Right. So gender dysphoria, is basically the discomfort that a person, an individual goes through because there is a discrepancy in the sex that he is born with. So, and the kind of role he associates with. So let's say he's born a male, but he associates more with a female. He thinks his body is more meant to be feminine. So
Hmm.
you're assigned with a sex at birth, but over the years you realize that maybe you're not a male but a female, or if you're a female, you're not a female, you're a male. So there is a conflict in what the society can see, what you maybe are born with, but
Hmm.
something that you feel inside is not matching the sex.
Hmm.
What age people come to us, I mean, the kind of this. So we have a few children who started opening up, who maybe at 7 to 8 years talk about how they want to dress up like their mothers,
Hmm.
how they want to maybe do things which are wearing the jewelry of their mothers.
Hmm.
uh, we have some boys who talk about wanting to not liking the hair on their body, because they think that they can be more cleaner and more prettier, like like women.
Hmm.
But what happens is, because they are very young, there is no such uh, labeling. if I can say,
mm,
or no such parameters that we sort of distinguish them and say, oh, this person, is having some gender crisis, and
mm,
maybe we should just, treat that person. Uh,
mm,
Eventually, that person, that child needs to go through, maybe counseling, and
mm,
over say 12 to 13 years,
mm,
when the child turns 12 to 13 years, is when a lot of teenagers speak openly,
mm,
right? But again, because they are not in the earning position, these this whole change is also a very costly affair at the same time. So maybe some people are okay to not have sex change operations or not have any kind of hormone therapy, and
mm,
they are okay being a male body wise, but thinking like a female or dressing up like a female. This is also cross dressing. But there are some people who maybe want to go through the whole process, and
mm,
the first rejection that they get is from family. So there are these various organizations which have started, which support and which look at these people and support them. So maybe after you're like 14, 15, 16 is when you actually come up in the open and maybe talk about it or start realizing that this is something that is happening to you. And then some
mm,
people have the money from their parents, so fair enough, but some people don't. So they actually, struggle, they work, and but they still go through this difficult process, because once they decide, they really go through it. But I think what is missing is that a lot of people don't understand that they need to, avail help even before they are thinking of going through a sex change, surgery,
mm,
because the kind of hormonal changes, the kind of bodily changes, the kind of emotional changes that happen in your body, one needs to know that before one goes through it. See,
mm,
after you go through it, of course, again, therapy and the doctors, and it's a full teamwork. So
mm,
we have psychiatrists, we have counselors, we have psychologists involved in this process. So
mm,
nobody can work in isolation. But as much as people think once things have changed, you will need help. Even before things change, they need
mm.
equal amount of help. So that is another thing which I like to, talk about and promote here on this platform. That please don't think about it when everything is done, or after a few years, maybe you'll change and things will get better. It's important to also go prior, understand what is going to happen, maybe be mentally more prepared. And I think then this process seems to be easier and
mm.
seamless once you're aware and you know what you're going to go through.
Definitely. And you rightly mentioned that I also discussed with one of my friend. He's from the community, and he was telling me that when he was in his childhood, he just read somewhere that at this stage or at this age, people usually come out. So he always thought कि जिस दिन मैं suppose 22 साल का या 23 साल का 24 साल का हो जाऊंगा, that day I will overcome this thing, and then he just made a benchmark. And
Assumption. Yeah.
also the hormonal therapies and the transformation surgeries and all. I'd just like to ask something on that line. What do you think there are enough research, long-term research, that can give a conclusive and substantive opinion or result on what are the side effects, or is there any side effect at all? Are there research on this line, or still it is a muddled water and people
So
are confused? Yeah.
correct. So actually, as we are seeing over the few years, this has actually come up majorly now, that
Mm,
people are actually going for the whole transformation. So whereas the external features are concerned, let's say, your body hair, let's say laser is doing fantastic. Let's say, some of your, maybe your lips and your nose and your facial
mm,
structure, maybe that is also going great because of the kind of techniques we have. But internally, the kind of reconstruction that is happening with your sexual organs, or let's say the kind of hormones that are injected into you, how your body reacts is differing from person to person. So
mm,
some people over a few months get a little stabilized. Some people take about more than few months to a year, 2, 3 to actually get stabilized. Whereas how practical and safe it is going to be. I think the whole topic is still under discussion. There is no such clear indication okay, once you've done it's
mm,
all okay, because what happens is maybe some people looked stable initially, but after a few months started facing certain issues because of the hormonal imbalance, or maybe certain kind of emotional changes also that they go through, and
Hmm.
maybe the acceptance that they didn't find in society. So that also triggers a lot of these negative kind of things inside the
Hmm.
person. And maybe I think over a few more years, I think we'll have a little more standard research which talks about, okay, people who have done it 5 years ago, and maybe now what's happening. So maybe that comparative study, I think, will give us more clarity.
Okay. So comparative study needs to be done, and on this line again, on the line of comparative study, and if we have to go take a larger view of this issue, and I think it's mostly discussed in West, not that much in India, that somehow the pure science research are they are somehow hijacked by the social science things like the cancel culture and all. Many of the universities abroad are facing this problem that they are saying that we cannot conduct a proper scientific research on the hormonal changes or the community people's reaction over the dosage or treatment because somehow it's a kind of a cancel culture. What are your comments on this? What are your views on
So one thing that I also missed to mention earlier is that the voice of a person, and that is something that is the most difficult out of all the things that you think can be changed from male to female and female to male. But now there is some kind of technology and work that is done on even working on the voice of a person, and it
this?
maybe sounds more, for a male it sounds more feminine, and for a female it sounds more masculine, but it's still not completely done. So, what you mentioned about, how this whole culture thing is taking up, I think it's a very subjective thing, because let's say we had a case a couple of months ago,
Hmm.
where we had somebody who was wanting to go through this whole surgery,
Hmm.
but medically, see, it's not just आपको क्या चाहिए, आपको जो feel हो रहा है, but there
Hmm.
are a certain kind of tests, as I said, need to be done prior also, which is your physical examination, which is
Hmm.
your whole family background, your STDs, any kind of HIV history, right? So the doctor confirmed that maybe the person really wants to become, and things are fine. But there is a very important factor, which is when the person would go through the whole sex change reconstruction,
Hmm.
that's where there were certain complications. And that's a result of which the doctor said, even if you do hormone therapy, maybe the organ construction, for a female to male will be very difficult. So this person was totally clueless कि मतलब ऐसे कैसे सब हो जाएगा, ये क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. But like there's some bodily scientific factors where the whole area did not give that kind of maybe space for that organ to be constructed, because everybody's body is different. So because of that, that person actually dropped the idea of going through the whole reconstruction. The person is still cross-dressing, is still a male, but did not go through being a female, because he realized that maybe it was like a 50-50 chance, and
Hmm.
maybe that 50-50 would be of no help, and
Hmm.
maybe that would be more risky. So very disappointed. But over 6 months, that person understood that, what, it just did not make sense. And
Hmm.
maybe the person is happier now,
Hmm.
because, the person has accepted not only his feelings for being a woman, but also the fact that maybe scientifically things wouldn't have worked great. And I
Hmm.
think it's better he did not get into those complications.
All right.
So
So
sometimes these things come up case to case. So it's very important to, that's why we say do a pre-evaluation, talk to the right doctors, and get everything examined before taking such a decision, a major decision.
definitely, and as you rightly mentioned, these are subjective things that need to be examined before, and the things
Yes,
can be different for every individual.
yes.
Going ahead, if we have to discuss the because couple therapy is something which is in vogue, in trend these days, and so when it comes to the couple, same sex couples, um, is there anything that is shocking or revealing that they too go through the couple therapy जो सबको problem होती है मियाँ बीवी वाली
So,
problem basically husband को या
right, right. I know. So actually, क्या होता है ना? If you see these relationships also now, whether it is a lesbian or a gay,
Hmm.
there is always an active and passive player.
Hmm.
Usually, even I have seen when I was working with Humsafar also, I've seen, a gay couple, maybe, having completely masculine traits. But when they, sort of be together, this one person who how he suddenly has a different body language,
Hmm.
and he's more in the feminine zone because he's more of the passive player. He's a female player in the relationship, and the other one is the one who takes the lead. So uh, ये सब relationships ऐसे ही work करते हैं when you have somebody taking the lead who's maybe the more dominating, the more the up player. Maybe I'm not used to like to use the word male, because again
Hmm.
some people don't identify either with male or female. They can be
Hmm.
maybe both. So maybe somebody who would be the on the up layer, saying that he's the one who is going to lead, or she's going to lead, and the other one is going to be more on the passive side. So even their issues, you'd be surprised, are same like the way you and I would talk about our relationships.
Hmm.
The only thing is what majorly sort of brings them down is maybe the acceptance factor. Maybe the people who are so-called their friends earlier, maybe some of them have just cut contacts with them. Maybe family members, who maybe have got to know that they have this kind of a preference, have just like not bothered to even get in touch with them. So this is what demeans and makes them, lose their morale. I mean, otherwise, when they are in a relationship and when they are struggling through life, like the way you and I are, they have similar issues.
All right. All right. And I'd like to follow with the question that what are your views on same-sex marriage? Because it was recently discussed in the judiciary also. Now it's in the committee which is headed by cabinet secretary. So what are your views on it?
So, see, I feel, Bhupendra, that we are all living in a country where we talk about democracy. We all talk about freedom to do things, that we like. We talk about freedom of expression, and I think, in the standard, say, so to call protocols or life, we talk about male and female relationships. But I think the fact that a lot of people have come up and we are seeing these things happening, I think acceptance. And maybe, I love this quote which says, "Live and let live." I think
Hmm.
if we all can follow that, and maybe, just accept these people and let them be who they want to be, I think is maybe a good thing for now, because I don't think we as individuals have the right to decide for their preferences. Because if somebody decides for us to, we will not like it. So I don't think what they feel is something that we can label as wrong, right?
Hmm.
Maybe how far they want to go with it. Do they really want to go do the whole reconstruction surgery? Do they want to go through the hormones? Do they want to pursue this for life? I think
Hmm.
should be completely left on the individual's choice. And I think respecting that, I think I would totally go for this fact that we need to respect everybody for their choices and preferences. And also, I think in school, we are taught this thing about accepting each other, respecting each other for who we are. So if we look at it in that sense, I think it should be freedom of choice for everybody, whether it's us, them, or whether it's people who do not want to have even a he or she pronoun, they want to be called they. I think it should be the same for everybody.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think there is. I mean, there was a very inclusive debate on this also, in the judiciary, and there were things for and against. There was one thing which was, I mean, not said in from India's context, but Jordan Peterson has said this about the same-sex marriage, that uh, I think he said that it will strengthen the intimacy. The marriage will strengthen the intimacy and the legitimacy between the couples, and the promiscuous behaviors will also be somehow reduced and tamed, and that sometimes also leads to some diseases and STDs and all. But at the same time, he was also apprehensive that this might dilute the framework of or the sanctity of marriage in itself, if not taken care of properly. I think so. That's a responsible stance, which if one adheres to the marriage rituals and the vows, then I think it's a very thumbs up thing.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
uh, Yeah, going ahead, just tell me what are the things that corporates can inculcate in order to ensure the inclusivity. I personally don't see any downhill or any negative effect of the inclusivity, but still we see that the corporates are not vouching for it as they should be.
So yeah, so as you rightly asked, Bhupendra, that how can we start as an organization, right? So I'd like to just brief you about Empower and then maybe take you through that. So at Empower, we basically Mrs. Nirja Birla, she's a great pioneer and she's worked immensely hard on creating this whole initiative to support mental health in all aspects, in all spheres of life with different population. So whether it is children, whether it is adults, whether it is NGOs, whether it is the LGBTQI community, we have a cell, we have an organization whom we cater to, where we have a counselor who's assigned to them.
Hmm.
So any kind of issues, they don't need to go through anybody. They can just mail the counselor directly and look for an appointment. So we have a set day for them, where on that day, as on an appointment basis, first come first, they've been giving those appointments. Secondly, within our staff, we have mostly psychologists and experienced therapists. We are also promoting, we're selecting, say, maybe one or two therapists per region, per center that we have, and we are training them to deal with this population effectively. So we're actually investing on training, bringing a resource from outside and training them to be completely competent to handle the issues or the kind of concerns this community brings on the table. So
Hmm.
that is what we have started. And of course, we have a helpline number. I'd like to just mention the number, where we have calls coming across the country for all kinds of issues. We also have a lot of people who maybe are indulging in, any kind of self-harm or having suicidal attempts, are also calling on the number and availing for help, right? So the number is 1-800-120-820050. So maybe creating these kind of opportunities, we're giving them an equal opportunity to call and talk about their concern is also something that we can start with. Now,
Hmm.
talking about an overall aspect of how corporates can help. So maybe organizations can, us have already started work and we are looking at expanding and doing more work with them, right? Whereas talking about hiring them for work, as we said, maybe we have people in the community who are, getting educated, who are going for higher studies. Um, Maybe the ratio is lesser now, but maybe also giving them the equal chance to apply like normal candidates, taking them through the selection process, and also investing on training them, maybe,
Hmm.
can be of great help. Also in the organization promoting like a, as I said, like a, like a neutral language, not based on gender, and also a smallest thing that we can start with is having unisex toilets,
Hmm.
so that it's not refrained to having he or she, but anybody and everybody can just avail it.
Okay.
So I think right from the acceptance to promoting to also investing on training them and giving them equal opportunities like the other employees in the organization, I think maybe in the next 5 years to 10 years will change a lot about the way people think about this community.
All right. All right. And yeah, I think I have read somewhere, was it Supreme Court or some High Court? They have started the unisex toilet thing also. So I think back in prior to 2 3 years, it was
Yes, yes,
initiated.
yes.
Hopefully, we imitate that and do
Yeah,
and make it a common thing. Uh,
yeah,
if we can discuss that even among the LGBTQ plus communities, are there specific community which is taking the most brunt of it when it comes to discrimination? To be precise, I'd like to ask: do transgender people are
yeah.
more, more depressed, or they suffer more mental health issues than other communities like gay and lesbian?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So there is no such clear demarcation, but whatever the stats say and whatever research we have that we have seen, that maybe the transgender population suffers more, maybe two times more than people who maybe have preferences of the same sex. Also because I think the transgender community, there are a lot of people who actually want to go through the whole process of sex change
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
do like a reconstruction surgery. So that process itself is a process that takes years, and the acceptance before and after is equally a challenge, right? So maybe because of all these factors, it is seen that they suffer higher, and also the rates of depression, anxiety, which is very common among the whole population, but with the transgender it's slightly higher because of the way because maybe some people still don't have the money to go through the whole reconstruction surgery, and maybe they are still suffering inside thinking that they don't belong to this body, but they don't have the resources to do it. So that itself is very depressing, and also they have a lot of suicidal ideations, and they also do not maybe come up for help at the right time, because maybe they're afraid about funds, they're afraid about who will actually help them. So I think overall, if you see from all the whole population, I think the transgender, yes, goes through a little more, maybe much more than the others.
All right. All right. And are there any initiatives or any programs, community programs for that matter, which have been used and they have actually made impact or benefit? If you can cite any examples around that.
See, the most important thing I think that has started is support groups. So there
Mhm.
are these peer support groups that a lot of organizations have started, right? Uh, Maybe I can name a few, but there are all the organizations who are working for this welfare, like let's say Humsafar, right? They all have these kind of support groups, communities where all the programs, all the kind of initiatives that are taken for them, they are sort of given that kind of update knowledge, and also sort of being psychoeducated for that. Also, organizations like us who work for mental health, as I said, we have a designated counselor on a designated day for this organization, where all the employees, I mean, not if not even employees, maybe in the community, people who reach out to this organization can avail our services. So I think a lot of people are also starting a lot of online platforms, which is called, as I mentioned, the helpline. So now, maybe not coming out in the open physically, but at least on calls, maybe people are able to talk and share. So I think
Mhm.
that has been slightly better than maybe 5 years ago. How people maybe just didn't know whom to talk to, and also a lot of these people who have maybe gone through this journey for years now are becoming like mentors to the maybe the generation now. So all, and those mentors are the ones who are educating themselves, aligning themselves with various different big organizations,
Mhm.
also looking at arranging funds for these people. They're like mediators for them. So I think this aspect is maybe letting a lot more younger people maybe accept, come up, and also maybe work harder if they really want to go through the actual surgery also. So to that level, we have this kind of awareness happening, and also I think maybe uh, the kind of legal implications that we have now about this community has also sort of caught many people's attention. So pehle log matlab, maybe were talking within themselves, now it's maybe a country's topic, and
Mhm.
everybody thinks legal is involved, so isme kuch baat hai. So
Mhm.
even that is creating a lot of buzz, whether good or bad. Maybe I think that's something that we need to work on and figure out, but I think the buzz is there, and at
Oh,
least these people are getting that kind of limelight in that sense.
so is there any hand holding done by the government uh, around initiatives? And I'd like to include one more question on that. There has been talk of reservation for transgenders. Usually we have vertical reservations, but here it is talk about more the horizontal key, irrespective of your caste and economic background. There needs to be a reservation for transgenders. What are your views on it? So both the questions.
So I think currently the way the whole perspective is about transgender, I think maybe having a reservation will not only give them some kind of security, but also maybe motivate them to maybe reach that level to achieve, the respective position or the respective scholarship or whatever is maybe something that they have not got easily till now. So I think maybe yes, for now, I think maybe that's a good way to start with. But I think eventually, if the acceptance becomes, like worldwide, I mean, Western countries, it's still better. But maybe India also grows like that. Maybe eventually, maybe they don't need to be considered separate and special or different. Maybe they can just be one of us.
Hmm.
So for now, maybe yes. But I think eventually, if you are looking at equal opportunities, if you're talking about equality, then I think it should be like a fair race for everybody, right? And maybe I think if we support them, if we accept them, I think in the years to come, I think they will not need such special handholding. Maybe they'll fight for their place like you and me today,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, what was the second question?
Hand holding, any initiative from the government side, any
See, see, what is happening is there is no such direct, kind of initiative. But as I said, a lot of NGOs and a lot of these mediatory agencies have come up where we have transgender mentors only who are hand holding and guiding these people. And I think empowering those mentors maybe has become a prime role of a lot of NGOs. So I think that itself is, doing pretty well. And maybe in the times to come, I think. Like the way we all have these certain kind of privileges from the government, especially, I think maybe they'll also have it because maybe they'll be one of us.
hmm. Okay. I think we have inclusively, holistically discussed most of the topics. And I'd like to, this will hopefully be the last question. And so I want to be a devil's advocate here. And there are people who say, ki, especially in the West, that because the children are taught so much about the inclusivity, no, and you can be anything, or you can whatever you can think of, they tend to decide and start taking hormones at very early age, around 12, 13 years, and that actually deteriorates their health like anything. So what should be this approach? What age usually one should make a mind, okay, this is the thing I want to be this. It should be, can it be this early, around 12, 13 years, or there need to be a time frame for that?
So, maybe not an exact time frame, but I believe that the way we have kept a legal age for marriage, we've kept a legal age for maybe signing your documents, maybe we think that by that time the person is mature enough to understand and start taking decisions.
Hmm.
So I think considering that point itself, I think maybe it can be around the similar age when a person understands and really is sure about what's happening. So as
Hmm.
I told you, we have quite a few children, at 6, 7 years who talk about being like mummies and talk about being like daddies. There are also these psychological conflicts the children go through. And maybe over years, maybe it's better. But at that point of time, as I told you, compartmental and telling, no, no, I think the child has gender dysphoria maybe is the wrong way to label and sort of just decide and there 12, 13, maybe they have started talking about it. But I think also giving them the time to reflect and understand, as we discussed about the whole pre-arrangement about how these things work and
Hmm.
what exactly is it feel, how sure are they, right? That is one. And also, as I said, the whole medical examination, right? Because your body also needs to be ready to go through this rigorous treatment, because it is not simple. It is almost like creating a new life, just that your body is existing, but it's creating like a new system for everything, which
Hmm.
is not easy. So maybe once even if the person has opened up at 12, 13, I think discussing the whole journey with that person about the whole consequences to where the person stands today, I think, and also telling the person that look, it's not just about what you and I think or how much you feel. I think what is medically practically possible should also be considered. And maybe after that, I think, if the person is sure and we think everything can fall in place, the person is ready mentally, I think then maybe it's the right stage to go in. But definitely not really looking at it at 12:30. I think it's just too soon to just do it, because I think the person by then is still not very sure also, or maybe is not even
Mm.
understanding actually the journey ahead. Once
Okay.
maybe the picture is shown and the person is sure, then I think it's good to go.
Okay. So proper time need to be taken, and even जो
Yeah,
कहते हैं हम हिंदी में self चिंतन मनन और जो भी चीजें हैं वो करनी चाहिए, and then you should come to a conclusion at a substantive age. Um, yeah, thank you
right.
so much.
So let
Yeah.
so just last point, I think I just like to mention. So let's say, Bhupendra, that we have somebody coming today to us that, oh, I think I have tendencies of feeling more comfortable being a female, and he's a male. Maybe the whole process to sort of psychologically go through should at least take about year and a half. You
Hmm.
cannot tell, like, you cannot make the person just say, okay, oh, in 3 months I think he's ready to go for a sex change. And that is why there is a system between psychiatrists, counselors, the whole team that we work as. It's not like it's decided today and it's thought today, the person feels like that, and within few months everything happens. So there are these this whole preparation that goes through when certain documents are signed by the counselor and psychologist and the psychiatrist, so that eventually when the medical examination happens, most of it goes step by step. So it's
Hmm.
not something that can happen within few weeks and few days.
Hmm.
So I would urge that everybody, maybe take the right kind of help, and maybe with professionals who are counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and also not ignoring that the medical examination is equally important. Once
Hmm.
all of the factors and the whole team is in sync, I think then maybe it's a good time to go ahead.
All
So
right. So
yeah.
there lies a proper mechanism, and the things that need
Yes,
to
and
be.
we should follow it, because that's the way it's best if done.
Hmm. And I think the people are, if they are made aware about this more, then obviously, because many large chunk of population is not aware about this at all, and be it from the
Yeah.
community or outside the community, if somebody is aware, I think they can help each other with this.
Right.
And
So on this, I just like to tell you, sorry to cut you, but I may just miss this point. But
mm,
we as an organization have taken this oath that we have been reaching out to various organizations, whether LGBTQ or normal organizations, where we are looking at doing general mental health. So, in that we have an inclusion slide which talks about including and talking about this community and accepting them. So I think the first step to the whole process is acceptance and awareness. I think
mm,
if we can work on that as individuals, as communities, as organizations, I think maybe the journey for this community in the years to come will be easier and smoother. So I think maybe that is the first step we should all begin with.
okay, so yeah, hopefully this was very much informative for the viewers that we had, and
Sure.
obviously being not from the community, I cannot represent their questions to the best of extent, but I tried my best, and I hope that they are aware in some sort, and they act accordingly also. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Naseem, for being with us. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I hope through this we can maybe make people more aware and understand that LGBTQ is not a mental disorder. It is not something that is a disease. It is not something which needs um, a cure. I think it needs support, and it needs to be looked as maybe they need hand holding, and maybe we need to just maybe accept it as a part and not treat it like a isolated piece, or maybe a like a problem.
Ji.
So yeah,
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
thank
watching.
you,
Thank you.
thank you.